Hi, I'm Will. I wanted to come out today and talk a little bit about the DJI Mavic Air and some of the options to use goggles with the Mavic Air. Now, the Mavic Air is a little bit unique compared to some of the other drones in that it's going to be a wired connection. The Mavic Pro, the Phantom 4, those use OcuSync, I believe, and they'll connect directly with the goggles, no wire. With this one, you're going to need a wire to connect between your controller and the goggles. So for pretty much all of these options that we have, you're going to need some kind of a wired connection. The DJI goggles are going to be the #1 option, but they're also the most expensive option. These are like $400 for these goggles. They're great because they give you a lot of control using the touchpad on the side of the goggles to interface with the drone. You can set camera settings, you can change between the video resolution coming back and forth from the drone. You can do head tracking. Several different flight modes can be engaged using the DJI goggles. Most all of the functions of the drone can be controlled from the goggles. Now, one of the drawbacks is because it is wired, the controller has 2 USB ports on it, but only one port can be used at a time. So you can't have your phone in the controller connected to the controller and the goggles. It's going to be one or the other. Now, one of the things I've ran into, you lose all of your flight data. Everything's displayed in the heads-up display on the goggles, but as far as like having a record, if you were to go out and fly the drone, run into a tree and crash, and you didn't have a good idea where it went down, if you're using the app on the phone, you'd have a GPS track to where it went down. When you're using the goggles, you don't have that flight log, that flight history. It's on the drone. Should you crash, you can recover the drone and it's a warrantable failure. You've got flight history on the drone SD card that you can send in to help get some warranty repair. But you're going to have a hard time finding it. So that's one drawback. Another thing that I've ran into, and if you guys know a solution for this, let me know. Compass calibration. You set everything up, you set the drone down, you connect the goggles to the controller, you're all ready to go, and it gives you a compass calibration error. There's no way to do that from within the goggles that I'm aware of. So you end up disconnecting the goggles, reconnecting your phone, going through the compass calibration, disconnect the phone, reconnect the goggles, and go fly. One of the things you can do that I have seen and I have done, you can put the phone in the controller, have it connected to the cord this way, and then just unplug from up here. And by unplugging there, then you can plug in down in the bottom, have this plugged into your goggles. Whenever you need to switch over, you unplug from the bottom, plug this back in, and you're switched right back over to the phone and can go right back into the app. It will reconnect quite quickly. But that's basically an overview of the goggles. Probably the best option out there, but again, $400 approximately for those. Now, another option that I was not personally able to get to work with the Mavic Air and iOS is Fatsharks. So if you have a set of Fatsharks, these are an older set, these don't have HDMI, but there are plenty of guys out there that have something like this that has an HDMI input. With Android, I know a lot of Android phones have HDMI output or adapters. I think those would work great. Unfortunately, with iOS, you have this lightning connector, or you have the old 30-pin connector, and with those there's no, you can get an adapter that goes from the lightning to HDMI and get an HDMI output to connect to something like the Fatsharks, but the problem that you have is that adapter that gives you HDMI doesn't give you another lightning port. It has a lightning port on it, but it doesn't transfer any data. It only transfers power to charge the phone. So I haven't been able to find a solution to get HDMI out to use something like the Fatsharks. The last option, or another option that I have, is to get yourself a set of inexpensive VR goggles. These are a set of Utopia 360s that I got from Micro Center here locally probably a couple years ago. I think it was a special deal. They were like $20, and they came with a little controller for using apps on your phone. It's set in a closet, hasn't gotten used much until I found an app called Lychee. Now, the Lychee app does split screen VR mode. So when you go into split screen VR mode, you can connect. You still have to connect the phone to the controller, so you're going to want to make sure you have a cable that's plenty long enough to plug in here and then come around and plug into the bottom of your controller. But now, because it's on your phone, the Lychee app will keep track of your flight. It will record a track of your flight. It can cache the videos from your flight. It can do all that and display that split screen VR, so you're getting first person view while you're out there flying. It just simply pops in to the holder like so, and you close it up, and then you put it on, and it works really well. The weight isn't too bad. I've got the iPhone 8 Plus in here, so I've got a nice large screen. I don't know how it works with the smaller screen phones, but with this phone, I would say image quality is 80 to 90% of the image quality of the DJI goggles at a fraction of the cost. I mean, now granted, if you had to pay for the phone, which is why this is so expensive, it has a really high quality display, has a lot of electronics in it. But with this, you've already got a phone that you were using from before, and the $25 Lychee app, and then say probably $20, $25 for a nice set of VR goggles, you're into FPV flight for around $50. It also supports head tracking. It has several modes of head tracking in the software. I haven't used all of them, but I do find that having the gimbal track height elevation off of the head tracking is really handy. So instead of having to reach up on here in the controller and work the thumb wheel or this finger wheel here while you're flying to tilt the camera down, you can just look at what you're wanting to film. So I had my daughter out on her bike, and she was riding around, and I was chasing her around with my drone and trying to get some shots. And instead of having to try and work the gimbal and the sticks and everything at the same time, I could just follow her and then tilt my head to follow her. And that's really nice. Now that's on both the DJI goggles and in the Lychee app. But I'm really, really impressed with the Lychee app. If I would have had this working before I bought the goggles, I probably would not have purchased the goggles. They're nice, but they're not $350 better than this app, in my opinion. That's all I had for today, guys. I appreciate you stopping by. Throw some comments down below. Let me know what you think. If there's any more questions about any of this stuff that I can answer for you, I have all of this. I can try things out. Not a big Android user, so I can't do a whole lot with the Android questions, but please feel free to throw something in the comments below. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. I'm going to try and put out some more content. I'm brand new to YouTube videos, so I appreciate it. Thanks, bye.